Welcome to the Player Position Podcast, where your story matters and we make it count. Here's your host, Mary Lou Kayser. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone. I am super excited to be back after a wonderful summer hiatus. Player Position Podcast is ready for an incredible fall lineup, and I cannot think of a better person to start the fall lineup off than my daughter, Ginna Kayser. Ginna, are you ready for kickoff?
I am ready. Let's go.
Awesome. So Ginna Kayser is on the verge of starting her freshman year in college, and for a number of reasons, I wanted to capture this conversation with her because I think she represents, in many ways, the next generation of leaders who will be taking all of us into the end zone for multiple touchdowns as we move deeper into the 21st century. So, Ginna, I have told people a little bit about you, but I would love for you to describe for listeners today the position that you're playing right now as an incoming college freshman, and what made you decide that that was the path you wanted to take?
Well, I think I've always known that I wanted to go to college. Ever since I can remember, it was something I guess that was kind of expected of me and that I expected myself to do. But I didn't know exactly where I wanted to go until the summer between my sophomore and junior year of high school. I started doing a little bit of college research, and I realized that I think one of the first schools I looked at was the University of Oregon Honors College. And I remember as soon as I looked on their website, I just knew that's where I wanted to go. I just knew instantly that's where I wanted to go to school. And from that point, I was determined to go there. And thankfully, that is where I'm headed this fall, and I'm really excited.
I know, we move you into your dorm on Monday, and that's a huge transition for both of us. What do you think going to college is going to do for you in terms of the kind of position you want to play? Why don't you share with listeners today the path that you're considering and why you want to pursue that path?
Well, I want to go into the medical field. I want to be some kind of medical professional. I'd really like to be some kind of medical specialist, like maybe a radiologist or a cardiologist, something like that. But one thing that's kind of a little bit reassuring for me is I'm not exactly sure what I want to do, but I can be anything. I can be anything I want at this point in my life. There are infinite paths that my life could take. But yeah, I know that I want to be a doctor. I think I've wanted to ever since I was in 8th grade, and I just know that the University of Oregon is going to give me a really great foundation before I go on to medical school and continue down that path.
Who do you think has been an instrumental coach or mentor for you and influenced you to explore, think about, even now, almost you say this is what you want to do?
Yeah. Well, I had one of my health careers teachers this year, Mr. Bea, he's so inspiring. I also had him last year as a junior for my human physiology class, and I just really thought he's a fantastic teacher. He just really helped me learn a lot about the body, and I just fell in love with the medical world. And every time I walked into that class, I just knew that's where I wanted to be and that's what I wanted to do. And he kind of helped me to realize that if I really want to get out there and learn about the medical world, and if I really want to be in that learning zone, I need to step out of my comfort zone. And that was something that was kind of hard in the beginning. I was nervous because in my health careers program, we actually got the chance to go out in the community, in the medical community, and we got to, experience being at the bedside and working with patients. And the first rotation I went on, I was so nervous. I had no idea who to talk to or what to do. I kind of was shy, and stood on the side, but then once I realized that once I get out of my comfort zone and I start conversations and I become brave, I learn so much more, and I got so much more out of it once I realized that.
Wow, that's amazing. Not only just because I'm your mom, but to listen to someone of your age be able to articulate that self-awareness to me is really impressive. And I know that a lot of times in the media and just in general conversations, there are people who call out the millennial generation and say, oh, they're entitled, or they're not really sure what they want to do. And I listen to you and I listen to your friends and I realize, that is so inaccurate. You represent this next generation of very forward thinking, very realistic, very inspired people who want to make a difference in the world. And you started to talk about, Ginna, the feeling on the sidelines, which is a great segue into the second part of my program, which is Move the Chains, where, as everybody who loves football knows, in every game, in order to get that ball down into the end zone to score, a team has to move it 10 yards, 20 yards, 1 yard at a time down the field. And so could you talk about another time when you have found yourself playing out of position, standing on the sidelines, being intercepted, or maybe you fumbled the ball? Do you remember what caused that to happen, and how did you recover?
Yeah, actually, I remember about November, I applied for early admission to the University of Oregon Honors College, and I had gotten my acceptance letter from every other college I applied to, but I was still waiting on the Honors College. And I remember one November evening when you actually called me and you said, your letter's here, your letter's here. And so I came right over and I opened it up and it said, thank you for applying to the Honors College, but unfortunately we are not able to admit you at this time because we have not received both of your letters of recommendation. And I needed 2 letters of recommendation to get into the Honors College. Those were one of the requirements. And I called the school and I figured out one of my teachers that I thought had taken care of everything didn't actually send in my letter of recommendation on time. They said I could still apply for regular admission, but I was really disappointed. That was kind of a heart that was kind of a heartbreaker. But then I realized how I recovered after that fumble was I went in and I talked to my teacher and said, hey, you never submitted that letter of recommendation. Would you do that, please? And I think she just it's one of those things that she just forgot. And I know that happens when, you're a teacher and you're busy, but what I realized later is it was also sort of my fault. I probably should have checked in with her at least, like a week or 2 weeks before that was due and just kind of make sure she was on it because, I thought I did everything right. I got out my letters of recommendation like before October. I was like, I'm good to go. It'll all be taken care of. And I just I assumed it was all going to be taken care of and it wasn't.
Boy, I'll tell you, making assumptions like that, we are all so guilty of doing that, especially in our businesses. When we get so busy, we think, oh, it's going to be taken care of. But the reality is it is on us. And for you to have recognized that life lesson at your age, again, I think is a testament to the kind of person that you are. And also just the fact that when you make a mistake, when any of us makes a mistake, we really have to be the ones to look in the mirror and say, I own this. It's no one else's fault. In the end of the day, we are 100% responsible for our lives, no matter what. And I think that was a really well-articulated story that you just shared that everybody can relate to, whether you're 18 or 17 and going through the college application process, or you're in your 50s and you're expecting your assistant or a colleague to carry the ball and you realize, oh no, I was the one that was supposed to carry the ball. So that was great. So what advice, Ginna, would you offer young people in your generation, or even parents of children who might be in their teens who are looking at college and maybe haven't quite figured out a clear path, a clear position that they want to play? What would you offer them from your point of view on how they can maybe start to figure some things out and get some positive results?
Well, honestly, I would say just kind of jump into things. I think you're not going to get inspired to, figure out what you want to be or what you want to do with the rest of your life if you're just sitting at home going, "Duh, I don't know what to do." You have to get out there and you have to experience life, and I know everyone says this, but you have to, sign up for a club, take a new class, make a new friend, go for a walk in the park, just go out and live life. And that's just kind of how you'll be inspired.
I love that. And I think it applies to every age because even adults get stuck in ruts, and just doing one thing differently can make such a difference in the level of inspiration that you feel and wanting to get out of bed in the morning and go play your position, even if it's what you're not really wanting to do 100% for the rest of your life. At least you're starting that process of figuring out what else is out there. So love that answer. So Ginna, we are at my favorite part of the show, which is scoring a touchdown. So I want to take the ball from the red zone into the end zone. And there are less than 30 seconds left on the clock, and you are down by 4 points. It's third down, and it's now or never. Tell us a story about a time when you overcame this obstacle and ran the ball into the end zone for a touchdown that won the game for you.
Well, I'll tell you the story of when I actually got my acceptance letter. So I remember we had just come home from vacation. We had been in New York visiting my grandparents and your parents for spring break. We had a wonderful time, but I knew when I got home, and I was telling you this, it's like, I bet my letter from the honors college is going to be at home when we get there. And I remember you went down to the mailbox to get all the mail, and there was so much. We had to go through it. And I remember we got at least 3 other letters from the University of Oregon before we found the one that was the one I was looking for. I remember I was shaking, but I kept saying, I was like, "Mom, it's really thick," which is always a good sign. If it's a thick letter, it probably means you got in. And I remember I opened it and I took it out and it said, "Congratulations, you've been accepted into the Robert D. Clark Honors College for the fall of 2014. And I just remember that was just like, that was the touchdown for me. That was when I knew I had made it and I had done it. And I was jumping around. We were all jumping around and we were cheering because I had scored a touchdown.
You sure had, and it was an exciting day, an exciting moment, and it felt even better than being at Autzen Stadium when the Ducks score a touchdown and win the game. But I'll tell you, there was that moment of nerve-wracking, that nerve-wracking moment when we weren't sure. So it was a great story. So now that you have scored that touchdown, you know where you're going. Life is really opening up to you in brand new ways. As we wrap up the show for today, what 1 or 2 key offensive strategies straight out of the Ginna Kayser playbook that listeners could implement right away to move the chains of their lives and their businesses forward could you share with us right now?
Well, one of my favorite movie quotes is from a movie called Grumpy Old Men, which I love. It's so funny. But there's a quote in it that I just love. And this is, after I saw that movie, I kind of thought, this is how I'm going to live my life from now on. And the quote is, "You always regret, or the only things you regret in life are the risks you don't take." So my one key point, if you want to move your chains, take a risk. Take a risk today, take a risk tomorrow, take a risk every day for the rest of your life.
Wow. Listeners, can you believe that this is an 18-year-old young woman who hasn't even started college yet, and she's already figured out how powerful that idea is of do something every day that's risky, that scares you, that might feel uncomfortable, and look what it can get you. So Ginna, I cannot tell you how much this conversation meant to me, not only because of the fact that I host a podcast that I love to share stories with my audience, but because you are my daughter and I'm extraordinarily proud of you and just know that amazing, amazing things are awaiting you in your life as you take the field as a college student and for the next 4 years and then beyond into med school, really discover that position that you play exceptionally well. So thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story with the listeners of the Play Your Position podcast.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure.
And go Ducks!
Go Ducks!
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Play Your Position podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's guest as much as I did. And remember, you can find the show notes from today's episode over at marylukayser.com/podcast. I would also so appreciate it if you would take a few minutes to leave me a quick 5-star review on iTunes so more people can find this program and benefit from the wisdom my guests share. I look forward to seeing you on future episodes, and in the meantime, it's a great day to get out there and play your position.
Thanks for listening to the Play Your Position podcast, where your story matters and we make it count at marylukayser.com.